Everybody, this will be the last of our polynomial review screencast. We're going to go over problems 16 and 17. Now, these are the more challenging of all the homework problems that you had. What we're looking to do here is these are the problems where you had to factor and then factor again. So I'm going to write that up here. We're going to factor, then factor again. All right? And what that means is these are all going to have a GCF, okay? The first time you factor, that's you taking out the greatest common factor. And then the second time you factor is when you're going to find that product of two binomials. So let's start with problem number 16. What is it that all three of these terms have in common? The 12, the 15, and the negative 18. And then they don't all have a b, okay? Not every term had a b. No b's there. So the one thing you're going to be able to take out that they have in common is they're all divisible by 3. So we take out a 3. So we draw one set of parentheses, and we are going to divide a 3 out of these three terms. So what is left? 12b squared divided by 3 is going to be 4b squared. Plus 15b divided by 3 is going to be plus 5b. And finally, negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. Now we look, and we're done with the first factor. So we can check that off our list. We did the first. We took out the greatest common factor. Now we look inside here, and we say, listen, we can factor this, or we're going to try to factor this one more time. So the 3 is there, and now we're going to see, can we factor 4b squared plus 5b minus 6 one more time? We draw our box. I'll make room when I do number 17. All right, we put our 4b squared right here. We put our negative 6 down here. And what do we get when we multiply that? Again, those are coming from right here, folks. The 4b squared and the minus 6, all right? We multiply those together and we get negative 24. 4b squared and negative 6. We got that negative 24b squared. We're not going to write the b squared. And how did we get that? We multiplied 4 times negative 6. The one thing is, though, we need these to add up to positive 5. So we want our multiples here, our factors, to and these right now, 4 and negative 6, do not add up to positive 5. In fact, they add up to negative 2. So we go and we start thinking about other multiples, like 2 and negative 12. But the problem is those add up to negative 10, and I need a positive 5. So then we think about 3 and negative 8. The problem with those is they do give me negative 24, but when I add 3 and negative 8 together, I get negative 5. So maybe I rethink that and then multiply negative 3 times positive 8, and now I've got my winner, okay? That's a great combination because they do multiply to give me negative 24, and they add up to positive 5. So I write my minus 3b and my positive 8b inside the boxes. And now I find those common factors by column. What do these have in common? They're both divisible by 2. How about this column here? What are they both divisible by? The only thing I see there is a b. So that means that b plus 2 is going to be one of my factors. Now I go back and I look at this row. What does that row have in common? They're both divisible. They both have a b, and they're both divisible by 4. And then I look at that bottom row. What are they both divisible? They're both negative, and they both can take a 3 out. So I end up with 4b minus 3 being my second factor. Don't forget to bring down that 3, though. That's a part of your solution. It's just an important part as any. All right, you end up with 3 times 4b minus 3 times b plus 2 being your solution. All right, that's the answer number 16 right there in the box. Now I'm going to move some of this stuff over real quick. All right, I'm going to slide some of this stuff over. All right, let's move this one back. All right. GCF, I can move that over here. All right, let's go ahead and tackle number 17. 15x squared minus 40x plus 20. What do they all have in common? What can I take out of here that they all have in common? Looks to me like they're all divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide a 5 out of all three of these. So when I write this, I'm going to have my 5, and I'm going to draw one set of parentheses, and I'm going to tell you what I have left, which looks like 3x squared, a minus 8x, and a plus 4. Alrighty. Now I'm asking myself, I've got the first check. I've got that out of the way. I've done my factoring. Now I got to factor again. Just like last time, I'm going to look inside here and ask myself, can I factor this again? So the 5 comes down, and now I ask myself, can I find two binomials that when multiplied together give me 3x squared minus 8x plus 4? So we draw our box just like we did last time. Place the 3x squared, again, I'm going up here. The 3x squared and the 4 are going to go inside here. All right, when I multiply diagonally there, I have to get 3x squared plus 4. Multiply, I get 12x squared. So I'm just going to write the 12 right here. All right, now here's what's interesting. I need these to add up to have a sum right here of negative 8. So I'm multiplying 3 and 4 together to get that 12 the first time. Now, not only do 3 and 4 not add up to 8, they give me 7, but they're certainly not negative 8. So I got to be thinking to myself, I need numbers that when multiplied give me a negative outcome when I add them together. And you're thinking, well, how do you do that? How do you multiply and get a positive 12, but when they add up to get a negative? Well, we're going to have to start thinking here is, what numbers are negative? They're going to be both negative. So think of it this way. If I multiply negative 3 and negative 4, would I still get positive 12? Certainly I would. When I add those, I get negative 7, though, and not negative 8. So I start thinking, what are my other negatives that I could multiply to give me positive 12? And negative 2 and negative 6 would cut the mustard. They would be able to make that happen. So I multiply negative 2 and negative 6. So those are going to be my two factors. Negative 2x and negative 6x. So we go and we try to start factoring this thing. Look at, excuse me, this second column right here. What do they have in common? I'm not going to lie to you. This makes this problem a little bit tricky. If we just take out a 2 right here, if you just take out a positive 2, and then the second column right here, if you just take out an x and you say, oh, I've got an x plus 2 right here. All right, let's go that route. Now, this row right here, what can I take out that they have in common? A 3 and an x. How about the bottom row down there? You say, oh, they just have a positive 2 in common. So you put your 3x plus 2 in here. This will not work, and here's why. When you distribute this, do you see any negatives inside this entire problem? And I put a box around here. Do you see any negatives in there anywhere? Well, then how are we going to get a negative back in that original? Or where did this negative come from that was on that 8? It had to come from somewhere. And what we could have done all along, back here on this problem, and I need a small eraser to do it, is we should have made these both negative. If these were both negatives right here, all right, 3x minus 2 and x minus 2, then we will still get the positive 4 in the end, but we'd get that middle term of negative 8x. So be very careful. That's a tricky problem. It essentially relies on you paying attention and not just thinking, oh, my answer can always be trusted. I got to pay attention to what signs I should have in my problem. And that one works out. I had to put one on here that I thought had a nice wrinkle in it, and I believe number 17 is it. Best of luck, folks.